Hi, and welcome back to Resilience Unravelled. And it's late in the evening here, but my late evening has been lit up by the glasses and warm personality of Valencia Danzler, who's sitting in front of me, whose accent I think will lead you to wonder where in the world she is. But first of all, good evening, Valencia. How are you?
Good evening. How are you? I'm
I'm
wonderful.
good. Well, it's lovely to meet you all the way from Charlotte. And tell me more about yourself. Tell just a little bit about what it is that you do.
Sure, I'll be happy to do that. Yes, so I am the gratitude grandmaster, right? And I by trade, I am an elite neuro-encoding specialist. And all that means is I help people program or rewire their brains so that they will live their best lives and live out the goals that they want to achieve in life, right? So that's what I do by trade.
Very good. And so how did you get into that? Because I guess you didn't leave school thinking I'm desperate to be a gratitude person.
Oh, no.
Most of us have an epiphany or we go through something in our life that shakes us up a little. So maybe tell us a bit about your story.
I come from a background, just personally, a lot of ups and downs in life, right? And really in my childhood, I had a lot of downs. I mean, I lost my mom at the age of 7. I'm an only child. So
Yeah.
that in itself was pretty devastating early on. Um, but then my grandparents raised me, and then, of course, grandparents, older age,
Yeah.
they passed away as well.
Oh
And then
wow.
I went on to I was always good in school for some reason, right? Because I wanted to please my
All right.
parents and things like my grandparents and all. But I went on and got married, but then I was an abused wife. I found myself in that situation. And
Yeah.
so these things just really, you know, were happening to me, right? I say happening for me now, right?
Mm.
But I woke up about 7 years ago and I was at the lowest point in my life. I was ready to say goodbye to the world because I
Wow.
had had it. I
Yeah.
was constantly programming in my mind all the relationships that didn't work out, the money that I didn't have, and all of the misfortune that I had. And I was constantly rehearsing that in my mind.
Yeah.
So that's how I started out. But when I got to that point, I actually made a date with myself to
All
say
right.
goodbye. And I gave myself a
Ah,
week.
right.
But in that week's time, something happened really for me. I discovered gratitude. I discovered a, a video, and a woman was talking about, you know, she started practicing gratitude and she was living a better life. And I said, well, you know what? I might as well try it because I don't have anything else to lose, right? I knew what I had
Yeah.
planned. And I started just taking out a notebook every day and just writing down 3 to 5 things I was grateful for. Long story short, by the end of the 5 days, I felt just a little bit better
Mm.
to the point where I said, I know this is probably just my mind playing tricks on me, but why don't I just try it another week? I did it another week. By the end of the month, I wanted to live,
Oh,
and
good.
no one could tell me anything else. Everything in my life was the same, though, but it was how I viewed life now with
Yeah.
the lens of gratitude, right? I
Yeah.
felt better about myself. And now I've gone on to become like I said, an elite neuroencoding specialist. So I understand exactly that I was reprogramming or programming myself for failure all those years, but I was able to do the opposite with the gratitude and program myself for success. So that is why I'm here today.
And I guess it's interesting, isn't it? Because people forget that gratitude is about learning, isn't it? It's about reframing and it's also about finding the lessons. Because
Yes.
actually, because I mean, we all know it sets you free. Because of course, when you're holding all this stuff inside of yourself, especially anger, it's not great. But it is that, isn't it? It's about this idea that you learn and you develop because you're seeing something, you're understanding the lesson in whatever that happened. Because
Yes.
people, one of the classic things is this, it's about learning the accountability you have and whatever's going on, but only the accountability of yours, not the accountability for the other people. And
Right.
that's hard to get to grips with, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It's very, they say you don't have to worry about the enemy outside of you, it's the enemy within, right?
Mm,
So, but there's also a winner inside of you as well, right? So which voice do you choose to listen to?
yeah.
So I had to change that voice that I decided to listen to.
So the voice, tell me a bit more about that because I think people find these things interesting, don't they? Because the voice that you have talking to you, it can often just change, can't it? It can be not just what it says, but how it sounds.
Yes. Well, I mean, we all have something that I call, I use a framework and it says, when you're high, you can fly, but when you're
Hmm.
low, your very destiny you will blow. Right.
Mm,
And so when you're low, I think of it as you're in a murky pool of
mm,
toxins, right?
mm,
And so what are those toxins that we've all heard? The negative self-talk, okay? Procrastination, hesitation, uh, self-doubt, and all of those voices begin to speak with us. So the question remains, how do we get out of that? How do we stop listening to those voices? See that little girl 7 years ago,
mm.
she didn't know she had control over the voices.
No. And how could she? How could she know that?
Exactly. That wasn't any knowledge that I had, right?
Mm,
Um, so it is important to work on yourself, right? I have noticed and it's paramount. And that is something that we're not taught in everyday life. It's not something that we're taught in school or on our job.
mm,
But I've come to find that it is very necessary. Almost
mm.
like breathing air. You have to work on yourself. It's that deep work that you must do.
Yes. And some people use a therapist or something to enable it, but you can do it on your own, can't you? I think this is what a lot of people don't understand that the power. I mean, you can actually do it with ChatGPT and under AI models now as well. But you can do it on your own, can't you? You can just begin the process, and people use journaling
Yeah.
and your gratitude model as well. But you can just use those tools just to start becoming aware, can't you?
Yeah, it's very important for you to ask yourself questions. I started asking myself questions. Why am I feeling this way? How can I make things change? A lot of us we feel like we don't have time because the average person out there is busy. It's almost like they're a hamster on a wheel. You've
Mm,
got to pay the bills. You got to go to the job, and we're busy, busy, busy. And some of us are busy on purpose because we don't want to sit still
yeah,
and think about what is it that I'm feeling and how
yeah,
do I get out of this? What should I do? Right. And so you get so busy, busy, busy to the point of, okay, yeah, hopefully you'll never get to the way that I was. Right. But
yeah.
there's still hope for you.
That's a really smart thing you said there. I interviewed someone years ago, beginning of this podcast series, hundreds of episodes ago, called Tony Crabb, I think I've always remembered this. He wrote a book called Busy. And he said, in the old days when people used to walk up and say, "Hi, how are you? Nice to meet you. How are you?" People would say, "I'm fine." Because that was the way, especially in the Brits, we're very understated. And now people walk
Mhm.
up and say, "Hi, nice to meet you. How are you?" Very busy. And it's
Oh,
become the narrative, hasn't it? It has become
right.
and then there's a competition between how busy we are. And of course,
Yeah.
busyness, I like the way you're saying that. Busyness is the enemy of reflection, isn't it? Because we're so busy just doing anything. We're not really doing anything purposeful, I guess.
Right. Exactly. I mean, we get caught up in that drift. I call it a drift. But
Yeah.
a drift is not that great. Now, if you're a
Mm,
surfer, maybe as long as you're on top of it, right?
mm,
Not under the drift and not succumb to it. But yeah, we have to, it's easy to drift away. But we've got to stop and reflect, as you said. That's very, very, very important. And that's what I gave myself that date, but it caused me to say, wait a minute, let me try one more thing. And
Interesting. And a lot of people talk about this, the neuro-encoding world. I think it's because there's an institute, isn't there?
yes,
I'm terrible with names. James somebody, James something the third. I remember the name years ago. Someone talking about this to me,
yes, Mr.
and
Dr. Joseph McClendon III. We call him
that's
JM3.
okay. So you've learned with him, have you?
Yes, he is my mentor. Yes,
Oh,
very much
very
so.
good. And so
Hmm.
that's something that anyone can actually do, actually learn the skills through you or go to the source or whatever it might be. Because I'm
Yeah.
guessing you've taken that concept and you've wrapped your own ideas around that and your own personality and your culture and the way you think
Yes.
about the world yourself and your own story, of course. That's really important, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I found that, I do work with a lot of doctors and therapists in the field now. And I found that what I've learned from neuroencoding and what I practice for myself, in fact, practicing gratitude itself was a form of neuroencoding before I even knew what it was. But we tend to get faster results.
Yeah.
I know people who have been in therapy and nothing wrong with it, but they've been there for years,
Yeah.
years and years. And even myself, earlier, was introduced to therapy, but I can tell you that practicing the techniques of neuroencoding, of gratitude that I did for myself, I mean, within 30 days, I went from feeling ready to say bye to, hey, I want to live. And I've been that way ever since. And I'll tell you that the neuroencoding practices have really helped me a lot.
Yeah.
So,
So I talked to many people who've talked about gratitude, and there's usually two things I hear. And it's just really to ask you the question as
mhm.
much as anything else. But some people say, I find it really hard to get started. And there are
Mhm.
some people who say, I've been doing it for ages and I've no idea what else I can say. So, so I just wondered if you could, I mean, the first one's easier to deal with than the second one. I just wonder if you've got some thoughts on those two
Yeah.
different positions.
Well, it can. I mean, at first, when you try something new, it's new. So it's a little bit more exciting to you. In fact, like I said, I never even knew to call it a gratitude practice back then.
Mm.
I just got a download to start writing things down, three things that I was grateful for. But I had to make it an experience. And I do that today. I make it an experience. I set the mood, almost like a
Okay.
relationship.
Yeah.
You
So
know,
tell me more.
you want to set the mood, put some music on. So I'll
Yeah.
put some frequency music on,
Yeah.
right? I might light a candle because this is time for myself, right? Just because it's deep work doesn't mean it has to be boring. Just because it's
Yes.
deep work doesn't mean it has to be miserable. You won't do it. You won't stick to it. But if you make it an event, right? And you say, hey, this is time for myself to
That's good.
breathe,
I like that.
to relax, and
Mm.
just to write. And what we say now is what you write, you invite. It goes into your subconscious mind. So everything that you're doing, the steps that you take, it's really based on science, but science is boring, right?
Well, no, no. Well, I quite like science, so
You like science?
but I know what you mean. But
Yeah.
I'm just thinking about that. So imagine I've never done this. So I've got my
Mhm.
candle and I've got myself settled down, and I'm thinking, okay, I need to find things I'm grateful for. I mean, where might I start? Might I look at the day? Might I look at my relationships? Might I look at my health? All those things. Is anything often on the table?
Anything is on the table,
Right.
especially the smallest thing. So for me,
Okay.
it was the most difficult thing for me to do. I felt weird. I would sit up in bed, I would have my journal beside me, and it was so awkward because it was new. I wasn't used to it.
Mm.
But it was small things like I remember sitting up in bed, and to the right of me, there was a window, and I could see the sun coming through the window. And I would say, huh, that's really beautiful how that sun is filtering through the blinds.
Yeah.
And I would write that down. You see, the thing is, this is the rule that I set for myself. No one can look in my gratitude journal. It's for me.
Sure.
So no one's going to judge me. I don't that erase the fear of judgment. Okay. Even though I felt a little strange doing it, Val, why are you feeling strange? Nobody's going to read this.
Mm.
Okay. So I could write anything that I wanted in my journal. It just had to be something that I was grateful for. No problems, none of that. Okay. That was my
Mhm.
rule that I set for myself. And so there you go. It could be the smallest thing. Just write it down. It doesn't take a
And
long time to write 3 to 5 things down.
no,
Well,
and
it
I'm
takes,
noticing that you're mentioning using a book and but what sounds like a pen or a pencil or something.
yeah,
So I
journal.
imagine that's part. Oh, there it is there. So that's part of the ritual, is it, to have a lovely pen?
Yes.
But you're not using a computer or anything along those lines.
No,
You
no,
don't like
because
science. I forgot that. Yeah.
no, because what you write, physically
Yes.
write, there's something about taking a pen
Yes.
and paper and putting your thoughts to the paper.
Yes.
It goes deep
Are you
into,
left-handed?
I'm left-handed. Yes,
Yeah, I thought you were. Yeah.
I am. But there's something about that. And it's beautiful. You will fall in love with your journal. If I had been left to just thinking about what I'm grateful for, I don't believe it would have had the impact that it had.
Yeah.
To write it down, now I do about 2 journals a year because I'll write down every day. I still do this today. And in those journals, it's nothing but things I'm grateful for, good news, things that have happened for me. Because what happened was it was hard for me at first to write these things down. But by about the fourth day, I noticed something. Things started happening for me. It could have been, oh, this cute guy opened the door for me today and smiled. And I would say, oh, I cannot wait to go and write that down tomorrow morning in my journal. Right. So little things like that. And I would capture those things. And
That
it's in
happened to me
writing.
today as well, funnily enough. But nah,
Uh-oh.
enough of that. So, sorry. So basically, what you're doing is you're almost constructing a diary, but it's showing how that's had an impact on you or something like. Sorry, I'm just trying to interpret it for myself because I've tried to do this a couple of times and have never been successful, you see.
Oh, okay.
So your
Yeah.
tips are very, very valid for me, you
Well,
see.
well, thank you. Thank you. Yeah. So I would it if you find that you're getting bored with it, so if you're getting bored with something, you got to change it up. It's kind of like a marriage. You got to keep some spice going. So,
Do you just change your partner? Wouldn't that just be
oh
quicker?
well, no,
Get a
that's
new
another
journal.
okay. That's a little spicy for that's another stop. That's
That's a
another
different
subject.
podcast.
Yes. But it's got to be something that you're looking forward to. And it's the experience itself that you'll start falling in love with, right?
Yeah.
Setting the mood and things like that. So,
And
yeah.
the point you're making is that this process is part of the encoding process that allows you. And I guess what you're doing is you're interpreting a finding from the event, aren't you? You're actually deciding. So I often talked about people who go on training courses, and there are people who sit there going, "Come on, impress me," and the others who are sitting there go, "I'm going to find the learning in this experience." And that's what
Yes.
you're sort of talking about, isn't it?
Yes, you have to go through it. You have to do it. You got to do it to
Interesting.
get the experience out of it.
Yeah.
Okay. You must do it. You can try to analyze it in your brain, but if you just do it, uh, and you may find different ways to do it differently. Like for
Mhm.
me, I've found the music and things like that, but also my radar, my reticular activating system was starting to look for things that I was grateful for. And I
That's right, I would
couldn't
do.
wait to write
Yeah.
those things down. So everything started to change for me for the better.
Now, I was interested when I was sort of rampaging around your website earlier to see that you've written a couple of books, and both of them are well, they're both sort of different but the same in a way. Sorry, they're not the same. They're
Yeah,
similar subjects. So why don't you take us through both of those?
sure. Well, again, for me, it's about the experience. Okay. And so with the gratitude journals or the mindfulness journal, so there's the Black woman's mindfulness journal, and then there's the women's mindfulness journal. And so I said one day, I said, you know what? How can I make it so that this experience, see, I can take a blank journal and just fall in love with it, right? But a
Mm,
beginner may not be able to do that. They may
I
find that
see.
hard. That blank page may be very, very intimidating to them.
Yeah.
So I went back to what did I used to do when I was a little girl that I loved? And now adults love doing this, right? And that's coloring. Now,
Right.
when you color, it puts you in a meditative state.
Yeah.
So you color, you're having fun. There's a little meditative state. You may not color every single thing, but your brain is going into that state. And
Mm,
then there's some prompts on the other page. And you
mm.
just answer the prompts, what you're grateful for. And so that way you're having that experience.
Yes. And it's
That's
good.
what.
That's a good idea because people that like structure
Mhm.
need that, you need something. If you're a bit more creative, which you probably are for a lot, you probably don't mind a blank page. You'll just start anywhere on the page and start going, whereas some people have to, work their way through it and don't want any spare
Exactly.
space do they at the end of it. No, I like the idea of coloring because you see a lot of people. I remember when I was at school, we used to get into trouble for doodling, drawing little pictures in the margin and all that sort of stuff and coloring things in. And now we realize it's really good for us.
Yeah.
It's a form of attention, isn't it? It's really quite peculiar how education's changed. So I like
Yeah.
the idea of that. So what are these things called again? Remind me and tell me where we can get hold of them.
So these are the mindfulness, the women's mindfulness gratitude journal.
Yeah.
And then there's the black women's mindfulness journal, right? So the
What's the
pictures are a
difference? Are
little.
the exercises different, or is there a different? Why have you differentiated those two things?
They're pretty much the same, but the pictures are different.
Ah, I
So
see.
in the black woman, you're going to find more, African
Yeah,
pictures, African American pictures, that type of thing. And then
yeah,
the women's, you'll just find, just women. You can color them, right?
yeah.
Sometimes there may be plants and different things like that.
That's good. No, that
Mhm.
makes a lot of sense. That you can see a representation of yourself and on a page. That's really important, isn't it?
Yeah.
So, people will do well to contact you and read your stuff. So, can you tell people how to get in touch with you?
Sure, sure, sure. And almost forgot. I do have a special gift for your listeners.
Ooh,
Yes, I like to come with gifts. I bear gifts. So I have something that I've curated for your listeners. It's called the Clarity bundle. Okay, Clarity
okay.
Breakthrough Bundle.
Hmm.
And in the bundle, you're gonna find a 30-day blueprint. It's a clarity blueprint.
Okay.
And it takes you day to day, only about 5 minutes a day, just certain things that you can do, prompts that you can use, things for you to observe. Just do those 5 minutes a day, right? Because what you'll find is you'll start magnetizing your day. And so these are for people who, feel like, oh, I don't have time to do this deep work.
Mm,
I'm a high achiever, but I've got a lot of things on my plate. I don't have time for this, but you do feel overwhelmed. All right. You do feel burned out. Well, this just puts it in just pint size nuggets for you to do every single day. Right. And then I have a self love and self clarity live teaching that I did. And so you're going to have access to that.
wow.
Also, I have a community called Ease Over Exhaustion. And so
Hmm.
in there, there's different tools in there. And then also, of course, I offer a free clarity call just to help you look at all these different things and put the pieces together, especially for you. So I'll help customize a plan just for yourself so that you can go from exhaustion, overwhelm, burnout to a life of ease.
Very good.
Yes, and by getting that, all they'll have to do is go to my Instagram, which is my name at Val Dantzler, and that's VALDANT like Tom, Z like zebra, LER. at Val Danzler and just DM me the message gratitude and I'll send it right
Well,
to you.
it'd be mad not to. Brilliant. Well, is it Val or Valencia? Well, I've been calling you Valencia the whole time. Have I
I
been too
love
formal?
It's Valencia and you say it perfectly.
Okay, good. I'm enjoying it. Well, that's
But
brilliant.
I
Well, you've
call
been
myself Val.
yeah, yeah. Well, you're allowed to. It's your name. Um, Brilliant. Well, look, it's been a real joy to meet you this evening, and you've cheered me up no end. And I'm going to go dig out my journal again and see if I'm going to make a start. You've inspired me to have another go at it. So that's great. So thank you for
Good.
spending time with us today. And let me just check. So I just wanted to say the name of your website, just in case anyone hadn't got it. It was what was it called again? Remind
Gratitude,
me.
gratitude. I have two websites, so but
Now
it's
you're showing off
gratitude.
now.
I know it's but gratitude Grandmaster is the one that you have. There is also valdancer.com, but either one.
Brilliant. I'm going to call you Val. Val, it's been a joy. Thank you so much. And
Thank you
all
so much.
continued good lucks to you. And speak soon. And you take care.
All right. Thank you so much. Have a great day. And I want to know that you're doing that gratitude journal. It's
Yes,
important.
ma'am, I think is the expression there, isn't it?
Yes. All right then.